Black defines cultural heritage institutions or museums as cultural treasure houses filled with informal and structured learning and accessible to all regardless of their intellectual, physical, social, cultural or economic situation.
There's nothing particularly new about them. These institutions have been around for hundreds of years, and the reasons that Black describes is the same reasons they were initially created as they fit in our society today.
But our society has changed. Developments of technology and digital innovation has changed the way we live our everyday lives, do our work and socialise. We spend more time on the computer, technologies and things like mobile phones.
So how has this impacted on museums? Has it made them irrelevant or redundant? There's two key arguments brought up by Black that suggest that they have. The first one is that rather than having to visit a museum or a cultural heritage institution to find out about the world around us or the history, we can just look it up on the World Wide Web or Google it. The answers are now at everyone's fingertips, and they don't need to visit a place or a location to find out all they need to know. The second is that these institutions are struggling to attract the people under the age of 35, and as he describes, replacing the traditional declining audiences of the well-educated, affluent classes that are declining in their attendance but also in their age. While these two factors may have strength in their claims, it shouldn't be seen as a black and white statement that museums are now becoming redundant. In fact, there was a strong argument they're actually embracing digital innovation within themselves and creative new and innovative ways to use technology inside of these institutions. Heath and Lehn discussed that with the digital innovation and widespread successful deployment of digital technologies in the workplace, home, and increasingly in public areas, this is not a hindrance to museums, but an inspiration. Chowdhury and Ruthven discussed two things you get through visiting cultural heritage institutions. The first is tangible things that you can see, such as paintings or artefacts, but also possibly buildings or archaeological sites, things that you can't move. The second is intangible things. Intangible things that you see through your sensory organs, such as smell, touch, hearing, and that includes things like stories or music. In the online environment, it could be argued that intangible things through our sensory organs are less able to be done. That means you can't go online and smell something or necessarily touch it. But also there is a facet of the physical tangible things, where you can't go and see how big something is. You're restricted by the size of your screen. But for the purposes of this discussion, the real question is how have these tangible and intangible things, in conclusion with digital innovation, been implemented in our museums and cultural heritage institutions? But right now, I'm the perfect example of some of the things that Black spoke about earlier. I'm under the age of 35 and currently, even though for educational purposes, using digital media. So why don't we stop talking just about the theory and go apply it to a real life situation and go and look at the digital innovation that's currently happening at Melbourne Museum.
But when I went outside, things just got better. It was raining. So what a great day to spend inside of a museum, learning and exploring. When I first arrived at Melbourne Museum, I was greeted instantly by the use of technology in this interactive board informing me of the different exhibitions that were currently on display. I decided to begin at the start of time, the dinosaur exhibition. There were these large skeleton shapes of the dinosaur bones that were put together, something that revolved around little use of technology. But what it did show is that the size and the grandness of these skeletons could not be seen over a small screen. However, to further understand dinosaurs and how they moved and in their times, there was a recreation in a 3D technological form of how these animals move and how they interact with each other. The use of technology that really made these creatures come to life in front of your eyes. It was the perfect example of Ruthven and Chowdhury's descriptions of tangible and intangible objects. The tangible in being able to see the bones and the skeletons of the dinosaurs, and the intangible through our sensory organs about able to see the dinosaurs move and the sounds that they made. This 3D interactive model provided another way for students and visitors to understand how dinosaurs lived. something that would not be possible without the use of technology incorporated into the museum. Heath and von Lehn discuss how interactivity is increasingly becoming part of museums through digital innovation, which allows people enhanced interpretation, discussion and learning through choosing what they would like to learn about by touching on interactive screens throughout the museum. Another exhibition I visited inside of the Melbourne Museum was one on our Aboriginal heritage. This included a lot of personal anecdotes. Similar to the story pods we saw at the Holocaust Museum on our ALC excursion, this gave people a chance to tell their story in a very interpersonal manner, a manner that allowed people to understand the intangible things of our history, such as the history, cultures, and music that can't be seen by being written down. It also allowed for video demonstrations to further understand how these native objects were made, and then you could also see the artifact in real life, providing a very holistic understanding to the traditions and the meanings behind the different objects. This is the way technology enhanced the museum experience, by working together with traditional forms to allow further understanding of the exhibition.
There is one consideration of this discussion that we haven't done, and that is, while you might have the ideas, how do we implement digital innovation inside of cultural heritage institutions? Because bluntly, it's not always a cheap exercise. In 2014, there was an Australian government initiative run by the Commonwealth Science and Industrial Research Foundation, or otherwise known as the CSIRO. This study looked into the innovation that could happen within the galleries, libraries, archives and museums, known as GLAM as a sector. But a key thing to keep in mind in the digital innovation discussion is that the Australian government on all three levels provides 80% of the funding to the GLAM sector. With such a large majority of the funding coming from the Australian government, when we look to digital innovation in our museums and cultural heritage sites, this must or will likely have to come from the government. That's why this study is so interesting. It shows that the government is interested in provoking digital innovation inside of our cultural heritage institutions. There is merit to the discussion that museums are struggling to attract people, but that doesn't mean museums have lost their merit in our society. Rather, museums have to go through a stage of digital innovation just like many other facets of our everyday lives. But ensuring our society gets out there and explores the things that have been developed through museums ensures their longevity and continual of the innovation process that's currently undergoing.